I think people are still logging in, but I'm just going to go ahead and at least get started, being mindful of the time. And I think it's 12:02, so I suppose we better get started. I am Erica Compton with the Idaho STEM Action Center, and it was supposed to be Chris Guthrie from ISU, her smiling face here today, but unfortunately she became very ill last night and is not able to join us today. So I stepped in to moderate, and I have some colleagues on the line with me today to support and assist the panel discussion that we're going to have. So first of all, this is just part of a series of ecosystem webinars that we are doing in order to kind of keep discussions and dialogue and information flowing across the state, given that we weren't able to have the in-person convening. They are Select Fridays at noon Mountain Standard Time, and we are really excited that today we have a business and education panel discussion with 5 different colleagues from more the IC STEM area of the state, which is Idaho South and East Ecosystem. So briefly, we're going to do some welcome and introduction. We're going to be talking about some of the needs business and industry see, partnerships that are forming, and some solutions to some of the challenges or barriers they may be finding. And of course, as always, we try to leave time for questions. So please remember to use chat. John, my colleague, will be monitoring chat. If something comes up that's relevant to the discussion at hand, he'll just jump in and kind of let us know what that question is, and we may direct it to one of our panelists in order to answer that. Or it may be something you want to know about more down the road. We'll try to gather any of those questions if we don't have time for some reason to catch them. So first, I am going to let our panelists introduce themselves, because they are so much better suited to tell us a little bit about who they are, where they work, and their connection with STEM. So we're going to start at the top of the screen at Idaho State University with Katie Leishman. Katie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Erica. Again, my name is Katie Leishman, and I work at Idaho State University. I work specifically in the College of Technology and with the Center for New Directions. My title is Special Populations Project Coordinator, but I'm also a Student Success Navigator, and part of my responsibilities is STEM enrichment in K-12.
Thank you very much. Interesting. All right, Tammy Olney, would you from onsemi, not onsemi or semiconductor anymore?
That's right. Yeah, we just rebranded. So yes, I'm Tammy Olney with onsemi. We have, I've been working with on semiconductor now for almost 20 years. And as my current title is Business Unit Operations, but I've also been on the task force for about 7 years now to head up the Pocatello site STEM programs under our corporate giving team. And I'm just excited to be here.
Excellent, Tammy. Thank you so much. And we have Chad Mitchell with Industrial Metal Enterprises. Chad, say hello and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Chad Mitchell. I'm a graduate of the Idaho State University welding program over 20 years ago, I guess now. And I'm one of the owners of Industrial Metal Enterprises in Blackfoot. And we utilize a lot of, the students from the college to hire new employees. We work in the food industry, so we do a lot of stainless steel fabrication. We work with our hands, and so I'm always invited to kind of speak on that side of the industry. For engineering, we utilize a lot of engineering and work with our hands, manufacture quite a number of pieces of equipment that build that everyone utilizes but doesn't realize it. I always say every day for me is kind of like an episode of how it's made, because we go into these plants that use computers to run conveyors and machines and equipment, and there's so many trades that are utilized to manufacture food. McDonald's fries, really anything that we eat. And so anytime my connection with STEM, anytime I can help educate the students on what's available for a career in this industry, there's a wide variety of things you can work with your hands or you can work the computers. And so that's kind of where I enjoy speaking to kids and telling them what's available for them when they graduate.
Thanks, Chad.
I think that's it.
And yeah, no, that's wonderful. And when I checked in with you guys, what was it, last week or the week before, I learned out of this wonderful website called educationforidaho.org that I had not known about, a collaboration between 4 of the universities. And Chad, you have a great video on that website, don't you? Right? Yeah. And so I highly recommend, if somebody wants to pop it, I'm not going to multitask because then I'll mess up, but educationforidaho.org. And there are a ton of amazing videos to check out. And actually, we just got the rights to share those videos separately. So we're going to highlight one every bit to show the different STEM careers from your point of view.
They have great editors. They make us look good. So
yeah, well, it did. It worked out great. So, all right. And then we have Carrie Thomason with the Pocatello Chubbuck School District. And so, Carrie, tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you, Erica. So my name is Carrie Thomason. I'm an instructional consultant for K-5 education in the Pocatello Chubbuck School District. I've been doing this about 6 years, and then I taught in the elementary setting and some in the college setting for a lot of different years. So my job is primarily split into 2 parts, where I work with teachers in their first 3 years of service. Another really fun part of my job is to support elementary teachers in deepening their understanding of science, technology, engineering, and math, and really make sure that our young students are exposed to as much scientific thinking as possible.
Yay, wonderful. Thank you for what you do as well. All right, and finally, we have Angela Miller, certainly not last but not least. Angela with Idaho Power, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you. I am an education and outreach energy advisor for Idaho Power. I've been doing that for just about 2.5 years now. Before that, I was a teacher in Blackfoot, Idaho. So right now I'm in the Magic Valley, but I visit classrooms from kindergarten to college, any age, preschool on up to the golden years. What I have the privilege of sharing is a part of our culture and our knowledge with people. So I teach on various STEM subjects, and I also sit on the IC STEM committee, and I am on Idaho First Robotics, and there's a few school boards that keep me on for their STEM. So I'll get involved anywhere, anytime with anyone as far as education goes.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela. I got to see a really fun hands-on demonstration Idaho Power did with the little train tracks and the electrical wires and everything. It was fabulous. They did an outreach with it at a school. So a lot of fun. All right. Well, let's actually talk. And at this point, I'm going to just stop sharing so we can see everybody's faces, because we don't really need a screen for that. So what I'd like to do is get a little better sense of what do you see, all of you as panel, and I'll just grab one of you and put you on the spot, as the needs that you have right now around STEM education in broadly and more specifically for your field. So Angela, actually, since you were last, why don't you go first this time?
Well, honestly, I think we all need to be invited to the table, both industry and educators. We need to be invited to the tables in our community so that we can help our families grow, both professionally and just as human beings. Yeah, at Idaho Power, we're always looking for people that are aligned with our own core values, which are, we always put safety first. We're committed to the safety of our employees and our communities that we serve, which is why I went and did that presentation for you there in American Falls. We believe in having integrity always with our customers, our owners, our employees. And then the last thing that we believe that we have a need is we have a need for everyone to just have respect for all. And that's our core values, is that we want to treat everyone with respect that we come in contact with. So that's where learning and development can begin. So those are some of the needs that I see that we need is to find people that are aligned with values like our own and develop those partnerships.
Great, thank you. Carrie, jumping to a school, you know, from your standpoint, what do you need? What are your needs around STEM? And the connection with industry, et cetera.
So there's always a wide variety of things going on in K-12 education related to exposing students to STEM. But something we've really been thinking about and focusing on recently is that exposure in elementary levels. We're really good in the secondary of making those connections. We have career technical education programs and lots of collaboration with our community business partners with the secondary, because they're close, they're ready to go out and make that next step. But we need to start thinking about early elementary in particular, and getting those students thinking creatively and problem solving and working. Chris mentioned earlier about how his employees work with their hands. And so it starts so early, getting kids, you know, even our kindergartner kids, building up that fine motor skill and continuing that work, getting them to understand that if something doesn't work first, if the answer doesn't come out the first time, we keep trying and we learn from our own mistakes. And so that's been a really big focus, is where's the time for that? Because our push, of course, is teaching them to read and how to be in school and how to write and how to do the math. And that's where a lot of the focus is statewide and nationally. But the thinking, those critical thinking skills and those seeing what's out there and what's potential in the early elementary is really important. And that's a need we're working on right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Tammy, do you do any work with those early ages, or do you see that some of the work you're doing or partnerships are more in those later, after elementary?
You know, we've kind of really focused on at OnSemi, we focused on the junior high, middle school age range, the 6th, 7th, 8th graders, because we want them to, at that point, to start thinking about their careers there and what classes they can take in high school and college that will prepare them for a career. But I kind of agree with Carrie that spark needs to start earlier in their education. I go back to my niece is in elementary, and they saw their older brother in robotics in high school, her and her sister, and now her sister is just moving into 6th grade and is excited about robotics, mainly because their older brother was in robotics. And so I've just seen that spark happen in these, 4th, 5th, 6th graders. And I think we just really need to start early. For us at ON, we have needs for, the trades is on up to engineers, and they're so, I want to say we have a need for innovative thinkers throughout all of that STEM range. And so to get those problem solving unique viewpoints that they have, it's really an artistry. And to start that early on and to get those creative juices flowing from elementary all the way through college, I think is what we really need.
And Chad, you shared already a little bit of what you're looking for. I really love that you're saying that it's there's these broad set of skills. I mean, you need highly perhaps technical, but you also need people that have really great hands-on kind of experience doing things. You want to share a little more?
Yeah, it's one of those things where right now my biggest need, employees. I need more employees, right? And me and my business partner Rick got together the other day and we're just thinking, what are we gonna do? We put an ad out and nobody applies, and it's like we gotta get in these schools and we gotta recruit from and let these kids know what's available. And so we're actually trying to find schools to go into and just do a half-hour presentation a PowerPoint slideshow with some videos and pass out a, I don't know, something, keychain or something, you know, that everyone likes to get something for free, you know. But these kids just, you never know, they're not getting that exposure anymore in the schools because there's no trades. They've taken out all the wood shops, the welding shops, everything. And now if you're lucky enough to live close to a tech high school, you can pick it up there. But how's anyone going to know if they want to do something if they can't put their hands on it? And so we're trying to think of things that we can do, give tours to our shop, you know, go to schools, and that's what we're going to try to start doing. See if we can get invited to some schools and talk to classrooms and things. But we use about 5 different trades in our business. You know, we have computer programmers. We build cabinets. We've got an electrical team. We've got welders, machinists, drafters, you know, and there's so many different things that we utilize that people don't even understand that those guys all work together in industry. And so just, I think the education part, getting out in front of these kids and letting them know that there's more options.
Thank you. Great. And Katie, from a higher ed perspective, share a little bit about what you see as some of your greatest needs.
Absolutely. So we are always seeking opportunity to support K-12 educators in STEM education. And we're also always looking to help industry partners and College of Technology graduate employers like Chad and other companies to recruit and retain talent. So one, we are recruiting into the programs. So we're getting exposure and kind of like everybody else is saying, early on is better. We want them to be considering these professions early in their elementary years. And we see around middle school where students start excluding certain professions, saying, you know, this either it's tied to a gender in their perspective, or they're not seeing very many people who look like them entering those professions. That tends to be a good area also for us to go in and talk about non-traditional professions and things like that. But recruiting, getting awareness and interest early on, but then supporting students and helping them be successful once they have chosen an educational pathway, and even into professional development when they're out in the workforce and doing what they came to school to learn and to do. We want to make sure that they're still well supported there, and eventually, hopefully, they're coming back and recruiting our graduates again. And so I love what I get to do, because I get to start building relationships early on in elementary school, and then I get to see them all the way through graduation and establishment in a career.
Nice. So I kind of heard a little bit about this, but who, and you can kind of even just raise your hand or unmute, but are any of you, I'm guessing the answer is yes, but have a successful kind of education industry partnership right now that you would like to kind of highlight, something that's worked well that you've done that we can share with other folks? I mean, I know we've got ideas of what we can do, but is anything happening right now that you're doing particularly successfully where you feel like it's having a great impact? Anybody want to tackle that first? Tammy, go for it.
Yeah, we've actually partnered with ISU in both the College of Technology and the engineering school to really recruit some interns and bring them in. And we've been really successful on the engineering side. We haven't kind of fleshed that out yet on the College of Technology. COVID kind of got in the way of that. But I'm excited we're going to, revamp that and get the trades in. We've got, technicians in our manufacturing floor here that are in desperate need. But one of the things that I think that came out of our early discussions with College of Technology is we've gotten that group to really fulfill some of our needs on the floor right now. We have needs of some machinery to replace parts, for machines that are 40, 50 years old, and you can't get the parts anymore. So we've asked the students to come down, and or we've taken parts up and had them design and redesign and fit and machine those actual parts. So we have parts that are running right now that were machined up at ISU and helping us as a business be successful. And I think that that's a good partnership, to show the students, here's a real life example, right? It's not all book learning. It's not all examples just at ISU. It's real life, actual working. You've made us, successful. You've made us money. And to marry those two, I think is extremely important to marry our education along with what we're doing in industry, and we can take those examples even into the education of down to the elementary schools and say, here's what we're doing. And I think we started something with Carrie with School District 25. Again, it kind of got derailed with COVID, and we're going to, as we are able to bring people back into our factory, we want to have those partnerships. We were really, I think, successful in bringing in the schools to, take tours of the kids and take them through what do we do at on SEMI? What do we do at on SEMI? What happens? How do we turn a silicon, piece of silicon into something that goes inside your cell phone, inside your car, and to get them excited about what that means and how they can, grow up to become part of that, from designing a chip to manufacturing the chip, and all of the STEM items that take place in between there. So I think we've been successful, and I'm looking forward to having even more success with both ISU and the school district.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody have something else there? Another successful partnership? Go.
One of the things that we do is we have hired some of the students from the welding program at Idaho State for the summer in between semesters. It just gives them some experience in the construction field. I just went and did a presentation to Eastern Idaho Tech in Idaho Falls and talked to the students there. And I'm probably going to hire 2 or 3 students from that program over their Christmas break. And so it gives them some experience plus some extra cash. College students need extra cash, and we're always open for interns and things like that. We've tried to do some internships. One of the problems is even from Idaho State, they don't want to drive to Blackfoot. and it's difficult, I understand, to have to commute very far. But we're always looking for those opportunities to give students, and we also do it with the high school program from Snake River. I've not gotten anyone from Blackfoot, but some of the students can break away for 2 hours for a work study, and they come out and work in our shop for a couple hours. So that's kind of some of the things that we've done to expose and utilize some of the students and partner with whether it's an ag class or a welding program or any of those. So
Excellent.
That's what we've done.
Yeah, internships are so powerful in that real world experience, so that it's not just the technical, but they're showing up to work on time. They're getting those skills around just understanding how a workplace functions.
One of the things, just real quick, up in Idaho Falls, showing up to work on time was like one of the biggest things that the teacher wanted us to emphasize on.
I was making notes when you were talking about needs, and it is just interesting, critical thinking, innovative thinking, understanding persistence, right? These are, I hear from a lot of people that I can teach somebody to weld, but some of those skills, and I don't like calling them soft skills because I think they're so critical, but some of those really fundamental skills of thinking critically and problem solving and learning to work as a team and showing up on time and are really, really important skills. Learning how to collaborate, which we see STEM experience often help foster a lot of that skill development as well. So Carrie or Katie or Angela, sorry, any other thoughts on partnerships that you've seen that are working that you're doing, or one that you are just desperate to try and haven't yet?
We had at District 25 last spring a really fun partnership that we started on, helped us out with it. It was a collaboration between District 25 and several industry partners in Pocatello and Idaho State University, and we called it STEM Up, and it's actually in the works for STEM Up 22 is coming to fruition really soon, I hope. But it was a nice collaboration because we initially worked with ISU, and Chris helped us. It was Chris's idea and we just kind of took it and ran with it. But it fostered this STEM activity kits with every K-5 student in the Pocatello Chubbuck School District. So over 5,000 kits were sent home, and they were all along the lines of physical science. And the kits were designed to have the kids work with their families. And that family involvement is so important, especially in early elementary. We need the parents to understand, hey, there's all kinds of careers that weren't in existence when you were younger, that your kids can be a part of, and there's all kinds of ways for them to go about it. It doesn't have to be a traditional 4-year program. There's so many options. And so we collaborated with ISU College of Technology, and their faculty made videos to help the students construct their kits, and our teachers helped them in the classroom. And then we had a number of industry partners also create videos that said, hey, related to this kit, this kind of work is really done in the field. And we had great feedback, and our kids were so excited. So I'm excited to see that kind of collaboration happen again.
That's wonderful. I'm glad that it was such a great experience, Carrie. We've got something very similar that's happening in the middle schools this next week. It's called STEM X, and it's specifically for all 8th graders in the 5 middle schools here in Pocatello, Chubbuck area. But this year we're doing it virtually, and we're doing very similar to that STEM Up. We actually, this afternoon, we've got a bag packing party. So we're putting together 971 College of Technology bags. And these students next week are going to get to do 2 career explorations. One is civil engineering technology, and the other one is health occupations. But for 2 class periods next week, they're going to get to learn more about what that profession looks like, how it is important and contributes to our communities every day, and then educational pathways or even certificates that can help them achieve a profession in those fields if they so choose to do that.
Sounds like fun. 971 bags, huh? It's going to be a party. Angela.
Well, not to brag or anything, but we actively support the communities where we live, work, and play. Everyone in our communities matters to us, and we prioritize education. We're actively out there assisting our future leaders. We do things, for example, we have a scholarship program. We offer solar for our schools, which is a hands-on kit for teachers that they can get. We have our Energy Wise program. We have a web page full of activities that people can do at home too, to encourage STEM, as well as they're written for teachers on that. We have a YouTube channel that talks about different things, like some of them it busts energy myths and myths around electricity. So we make a lot of videos about that, about the things we're up to. But the best thing of all is me. I get to come to the classes. I do presentations for all ages. I come in and I'll talk about anything that a teacher asks about. I do a lot of hands-on activities. So that's what we do in basically K through 12. I'm at STEM nights, but we're also partnering with the colleges. I go in and I speak with a lot of electrical students and then some technicians that are learning more of our trade skills. And I talk to them about what they need to do to get prepared for our jobs. We do a lot of recruiting within the schools and community groups. We just want to promote an understanding of there are jobs that are for everyone, whether it be you're excellent with tools and you're not going to go the traditional route, because we have plenty of jobs in the traditional schooling method too, but we have over 617 jobs. I can't possibly ever explain every single one of them. So whatever they're into, we can always find something for students. And that's part of why the STEM nights are so effective that these schools have. When they bring them out, then the kids can ask with the industry professionals and engage with them. We can ask them questions like, so you're into birds? Well, we have a lady that studies birds all day. Just getting to talk with the students one-on-one, making that connection is huge inspiration.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat because I heard from Mary Norberg that she would love to hear more about your connections with 6-12 in class presentations. I'm guessing grade 6 through 12. And that maybe that would be a connection to make even after this. I think Angela put her email in the chat, but if you don't mind, we can connect you. And you're also on the Idaho Power website, I remember. And we will try to share some of those resources in the chat because I have looked at them and there are some great online resources that you provide as well. And I love that you brought up, so, college isn't for everyone. And there are a vast number of incredibly great professions out there that you can get going to a community college or just through certification process. So I think that's important to note that, it doesn't have to be a college path. It can be just, what you're passionate about and connecting people to those resources so they know how to pursue that. So I'm curious, as all of you've been trying to form partnerships and solve some of the problems you're seeing, what have been some of the barriers or challenges that you've had in kind of meeting the needs you were talking about, as far as whether it's making those partnerships with industry or kind of broadly? I'd just be interested in kind of some of those barriers and maybe some solutions. If anybody else has those, please pipe in.
I can start this one. I'd like to talk about that first from when I was an educator. The biggest barrier for me was just not knowing what was out there and access to the people, because I would have loved to have some of these industry professionals in. I just didn't know about them. So there's that obstacle for teachers. And the further out you are, the more remote you are, you're just cut off a lot of times. And so that's one of the great things about IC STEM is it's one of its big goals is going to be to fix that, is to connect people that might want to. But speaking from an industry professional, I think a good place for us to start is to be observant, look around us. And I know that lots of you are actively doing that. Like Chad had mentioned, he's out there. He's like, who else can I connect with? I'm the same way, Chad. We should just carpool. It'd be easier. We need to be conscious about our friends and neighbors. We got to look together as professionals in industry and education and say, how can we become lifelong learners? We're deeply intertwined and in our condition of just being humans. So we all got to adapt constantly to the times. And we need to just create a sense of never stopping the curiosity that we're naturally born with. We need to ask everyone, what if and why not? And that's how we're going to get where we need to be. Thanks,
Angela. I think, Chad, you had a thought there, and I just want to do a shout out briefly, or sorry, you unmuted quickly, but Ashley Schaffner is on, who is the IC hub coordinator for the region down there. And again, that asset mapping and getting a picture of what's the tools, the talent, what are the resources in a region is just incredibly important. Go ahead, Chad.
Oh yeah, I'm right along with Angela. That's what I was going to bring up as a suggestion: recruit business owners to go talk to kids. I know a lot of my competitors' companies. There's a lot of them down in Twin Falls, Burley. I know that any one of those companies would send someone to go talk to the kids. It's important to us. We understand that's where our next workforce is going to come from. because we also have people retiring too. and so we got to replace those people. And so recruiting business owners, I've had teachers, just teachers of from IT, the charter school, ITCS, that's real close to us. One of the teachers brought her class and we went through the shop. You never know, just that little bit of exposure might spark an interest in someone's mind. Hey, I think I want to go do this or that, and so just doing that. And then also, I know a lot of kids who get turned away, especially the welding program at the school district there in Pocatello, Cary. Some kids don't know they're going to want to do welding when they're a freshman, but they want to do it when they're a junior, and they can't get in the program because they don't have the first class that they should have took when they were a freshman. And so eliminate intro classes. Let them try it. Just let them try it. Let them go into the intro class, even though they're a junior. Let them do the intro class. Don't. My nephew got turned away from welding because he couldn't take the first class anymore because he was a junior when he realized he wanted to try it. And so always being ready to let someone try, and that could be for anything. Nursing, some of the schools have dental hygienist assistants programs and stuff. And if a senior wants to try it, let them try it, even though they're, not going to be able to do the whole program. They still get exposure to it. And that's what it's all about, is getting that little bit of exposure so they know what they want to go into when they graduate high school. Those are my two things.
No, that's great. And, there's a kind of a pithy saying, if you don't see it, you can't be it. But it is so true that just introduction and exposure to the different options is like just literally fundamental. So I had to plug Learning Blade. If one of my colleagues doesn't mind putting the link in there for those educators, just remember that that's a online STEM CS career awareness platform that's all mission-based and it's got 100 or plus different careers, and it's free for all Idaho public schools for 3 years through the STEM Action Center and the partnership we've formed. So just always have to plug, because if you don't see it, you can't be it. So I like that. So what other challenges are you facing? Carrie, Katie, anybody jump in if you would like, and unmute.
Well, I think one of the problems or challenges that we see in elementary education, there's a couple of things that I think I'd love to hear some solutions for. Is one of them is just outreach to their parents, like really helping find ways to educate the parents about the opportunities and how to support their students as they go through the K-12 program, to be exposed to those ideas, to the potential and the possibilities. Because with the younger kids, their parents are often, they have those conversations with them. Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we want the parents to understand, like, there's so many new jobs out there and so many ideas that we need to share them with the kids and connect with them. And then the other thing is our teachers do such a good job trying to invite people into the building. But one of the things that is hard is often it's a one and done. Like, somebody comes in, they share some information. As an educator, maybe my expertise is in first grade education, and I'm not sure where to take it beyond the classroom visit. And so I wonder if maybe we had some time where industry could come in and talk with our teachers and look at, what are you doing every day, teacher, and help them make connections to what they're already doing and maybe enhance it, so that does bring out that STEM career focus a little bit more, but their time is really, really tight. And so we want to help them see the connections between, any career and writing and communication and math. And there's a lot of science and engineering and beauty in that maybe we just don't see. And we've got to help them make those connections more clearly.
I like that. So really intentional partnerships and support from industry to help you better make those connections for the kids. Nice. Okay. Excellent.
In coordinating this STEMX conference for 8th graders that I was talking about earlier, Lisa Novi from School District 25, I think she's in a very similar position as Carrie, but she does it for the middle schools. She invited me to a monthly meeting that all of the 8th grade science teachers have. And I guess they have it every month. This was the first time that I got to attend one, but it was a great opportunity for me to learn about what they're teaching in their classes, the learning objectives and outcomes that they're trying to reach. And I learned in that meeting that 8th grade science focuses on earth sciences. Well, we have a civil engineering technology program. What better way to come in and support what the teachers are already doing in their classrooms and give a great experience and career exploration to these students. So instead of doing something in addition to what those teachers are already doing, we get to come alongside and help support and enhance what they're already doing in those classrooms. And that's just one grade. 8th grade is just one brief period of time, but it's an opportunity for our programs that have something to do with earth sciences to come alongside and help those teachers and work with those students. But this has also opened a door for me in finding out, what does 7th grade teaching, science teachers cover? What do 8th grade and all of them? And it was a great opportunity and very eye-opening to realize that instead of having to create additional work, we can really help support and enhance what's already happening naturally in those classrooms. And so that was just a great experience and a moment of collaboration.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, you're so right. We don't have to. I mean, there are things we have to create, but so often there are those opportunities you just aren't aware of, that, or connections, oh, we have something that connects to that. So how do we make that more visible and, for everyone, I guess, is that building those partnerships. Any other thoughts from the panel? Because I want while you're thinking, if there's any other thoughts, I do, because I've been scanning through and I see a number of familiar faces and names and also a few new ones, which is wonderful. But are you doing anything in particular, partnering as an industry individual online or an educator? I'm going to finish that thought and come back to something else. But because we'd love to hear from you as well, whether you want to pose something in the chat, whether you want to unmute and just share a thought, whether that's a desperate need you have or an idea for a collaboration. But I do want to just make note that Jennifer Redford is online and she's with the Idaho Commission for Libraries. And she said, never forget the libraries as well. So we're talking about education and business today, but education is bigger than just schools. Our students are in out of school time so much of the day. So how do we collaborate with those out of school organizations who support students so much of the year, not only out of school time after school, but that summertime as well. So there are some great opportunities collaborating with libraries. And given that I used to work for the Commission for Libraries, I always have to plug libraries because in very many of our small communities, they really are the hub, the central hub of those rural areas. So just point that out, never forget that. And Ashley, if you wouldn't mind just unmuting, why don't you just share that resource, speak and a little bit more about it, because it is an amazing resource.
Yeah, so the State Board of Education has a site called Next Steps Idaho, and we've been talking a lot about being aware of careers that are available specifically in Idaho for our children. And so they have this great site on there. There's tons of information. It talks about like the average salary that people in these careers make and what kind of education it would take to work in these careers, and what universities have degrees available or certifications available for each of these careers. And so it's a wonderful resource to look at, and even for some of our elementary people to kind of scaffold up to, oh, this is something in Idaho that's in high need. What can we do to help direct kids this direction if they're interested in that?
It really is great. And it's kind of designed, it was originally designed for kind of an 8th grader to sign in, and then they could just help track progress and do all sorts of tests and tools. And it's really wonderful. So I highly recommend taking a peek at that. And I have a friend and colleague online, John Castleman, from Schweitzer Engineering. And I hope I'm not going to put you on the line, but I know you do a lot of outreach and work with schools. So I'm just wondering if, kind of listening to this, if you have anything you'd like to share of either lessons learned or something that's been really successful. I'd love to hear it as well.
Yeah, thank you, Erica. Yeah, I wanted to actually kind of double down on something that Carrie was saying. Something that's we're kind of strategically shifting on is, instead of doing a lot of just different one-offs, I think really emphasizing the partnership between entities, between school and the industry partner, and doing the planning, annually, so that you've got this to look forward to. The students got to look forward to, so there's trust that can start to build between, whether it's the teaching staff, administration, and even students to some degree, right? Because I think we need to know. Them to know if what we're doing is working, right? Like, is this working for them? Is it working? Is it accomplishing this goal of these students finding their way to industry jobs? So one quick example. This is something we did with Purdue Polytechnic High School over in Indiana, but had partnered with them on a 6-week industry project where we presented a big question to them. They were able to create, it's kind of like Shark Tank, where they came up with these prototypes. They did empathy sessions where they're listening to all the people that are affected, the stakeholders in this problem. And then at the end of that 6-week period, they presented back to us, and we were able to kind of give feedback along the way. And so having that just as this embedded part of what they were doing, now, they know they can come back and call and reach out for resources, additional questions, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was just kind of one brief example. And then shout out to your externship program. That's another one that's been great to be able to connect back with the teachers who we've worked with and support them in the ways we can throughout the year.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Checking in. Steve, do you want to share that out? Do you mind if you want to unmute and ask that question?
Sure. Just leveraging from what Chad was talking about some of the psychomotor skills associated with welding and other sorts of things involved with hands-on fabrication and design. Are there items explicitly in our Idaho STEM standards that address that, or is that more just indirectly with knowledge of physical processes and career awareness?
Interesting. And I don't have the answer to that. And I'm not sure, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you, we actually don't have, correct me if I'm wrong, STEM standards in Idaho, right? And so I'm not sure, but I'm not sure, I don't know the answer to that. Let's just make it.
Would they
really
map
brief.
under science standards then?
Good question.
You know what? Showing how
Engineering,
that connection
probably.
can be made would be really helpful for people.
Right. And again, I don't want
Engineering
to.
might be part of it too.
Sharon Cates from the State Department's on. Sharon, not to put you on the spot either, but I don't know if you can speak to this at all.
So there are some, there are engineering standards that are hidden within our K-12 science standards. In addition, there is an entire set of computer science standards. In the career and technical side, there are engineering standards and computer science standards that are different from the ones that are on the academic side. So yes, but we don't have anything that is a single source, single place where all of those things are gathered together. Hope that helps. Any other questions?
We'll let you know. Mary is just wondering if, she's talking a little bit more about, of course, in person, when you can have an industry person in the classroom, obviously that is like the ideal. But if you can't, how could we leverage online Zoom, our new favorite thing in the world, to bring those professionals and businessmen and into the classroom. And I do know that there's a pretty well, I think one of the things this pandemic has done is it certainly has made us more agile around using online tools to deliver content. So I think there's certainly some great potential there. So it's just something for the STEM Action Center to put in the back of their mind about how we might facilitate that. I think we had an online mentoring program platform at one point.
Wow.
It really didn't get very well used, but
Wow, really? That's desperately disappointing. Because I think that's another huge component, particularly if we are to encourage some of our gender and ethnic and socioeconomic minority participation. I think somebody mentioned, don't see somebody who looks like me. Well, I do think that that can be a huge barrier. And there,
Sure.
and that speaks also to the stereotypes of who we believe people in these professions to be, and they don't look or think anything like me. So I think the mentoring, I would love to hear more about the mentoring and understand better, how that came to be, what was involved, and if there's any insight as to why it was not as successful. I do think it's a critical need. I think it's a critical need at the university level. Frankly, I'm trying to investigate some options there. And I think we cannot ask faculty for more of their time. They're already completely frazzled. But I think that resource would have to come from industry, and be able to understand, how do we go about asking for that support and identify goals, et cetera, means of connection, blah, blah, blah. But I would love to learn more about that. And I think this notion of leveraging the success stories that I'm hearing about today just seems so important. And I am on the CS Outreach Committee for BSU CS. We don't have, frankly, even a really active list of educator contacts. I sent out an email to about 60 some math teachers in our general vicinity. I don't think I heard more than 9 survey responses. I was really desperately disappointed. So I would even love to start with, if anybody's got a repository of contacts in schools, science, technology, engineering type math, anything. I would love to have an active list of people who are likely to be interested, respond, give us their feedback, understand how we can best support them. But I'm hearing success stories with industry educator partnerships, and I would love to be able to leverage that, because the hardcore work's been done. What's working, how effective it is, the difference it can make. And I'm just itching thinking, if we had an active list of teachers who would consider a resource like that, and if we have the programs essentially buttoned up, whether they happen in Zoom or even video version at the least, that just seems like very reachable opportunity to really take advantage of what's been done and maybe shift the needle a little bit, in awareness. And that absolutely has to happen. I mean, we focused on high school, as a starting point for some of our initiatives. And it is kind of too late. It's not entirely too late, but one of the challenges that students face is, especially our minority students that we're chasing, is that many times they do not see themselves as super successful students. And that is for a lot of reasons that we can probably all imagine. But in order for students to access CS courses in high school, they have to have taken Algebra 2. Well, that's a very, very high bar to reach. And so if we want to get students interested who are going to buckle down and invest in their school success, that has to start earlier. If they're inspired and they know what's involved, it's not that they're not capable, they just don't have a dream or a goal, and they don't have a support system. So I think it's not an easy problem to solve, but I think you all have shared resources today that I think could go a long ways in establishing what is that dream? What does it look like? How might I find myself in this? And one of the things I always come back to is to approach students, I would start with, what's your passion? What makes you really tick? Because whatever that is, I bet we can find a connection, in our case, to CS, right? There's always going to be that connection and an opportunity, and it's an option to reach students who would never otherwise consider us. But we have to get into a point where we can reach them in their place of passion. And
That's
I
very
know
true,
it's all
Mary.
doable. Anyway,
Erica,
very true.
Dimitri had his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say, Dimitri, I'd love to hear from you as well. New
Yeah.
member kind of to Idaho, right?
Hi, yes, I moved to Idaho 3 months ago. So this is my new home. So a little bit about me. I'm a founder of an edtech company. We focus on helping educators teach kids computer science. So one thing I actually wanted to kind of share, piggybacking on Chad's idea of introducing professionals in the classroom, sharing the ideas, and Erica mentioned about after school. So one of our biggest kind of customers is after school educators. And actually, my previous company that I owned, it was after school education and teaching kids computer science. So one thing that really worked well in my previous hometown is that I partnered up with PTSAs in terms of organizing STEM career days, right? Where basically local after school educators that focus on, for example, I would represent the computer science, somebody would represent environmental science, somebody would represent engineering and robotics, and somebody would represent other topics. We would get together, pick a day, and would come to the classroom and actually tell them, what is it like being an engineer? So for example, I would say, what is it like being a software engineer? What does my day look like? What do I do? What kind of problems do I solve? And, kind of compare it to, actually software engineers are like superheroes. They're solving problems that, that a lot of people are facing. Right, and that was actually that really did generate a great success in terms of sparking interest of kids in the particular trade and particular kind of type of career. And one thing that kind of really facilitated that is that the after school educators, right, the after school space is pretty much very overlooked. Kids do spend a lot of time outside of the school, right? And if they're kind of generally, if they're not occupied, they might start creating trouble. So, so those after school educators, not only helping them to get more education, but actually helping them to stay out of trouble. And they're actually very eager, very, very eager to kind of come out and share about the passion, why they even started that after school education kind of business in the first place, right? And share with kids, why is it actually exciting? What makes it so exciting? And, in fact, I had one kind of like a presentation, what does it mean being a software engineer? And kids just had a blast. And it just connecting that, something that can maybe seem as like, oh, you just sit head down and you type on the keyboard, into something that, oh, it's actually lots of fun. It's actually so engaging, so entertaining. It really, really sparks interest. And I would get parents like reach out to me like, hey, tell me more. How can my kid get into game development? Tell me more. Where do we start? What are the resources? So that's been really, really helpful. Again, engaging the after school educators with kind of public school education, because they have all the resources. They have all the ways to actually make that present this in an engaging way. So that really worked for us, and I think that could be utilized here in Idaho too. And if anybody has any questions on how to get that going, I'll be happy to share some experience, because we're out of time and it's a bit longer conversation.
Yeah, Dimitri, if you don't mind and you want to share your email in the chat, please feel free to do that. As I said, Dimitri's new to Idaho. He reached out and I told him to hop on the webinar today because he might make some great connections. We are at 1 o'clock and I want to honor everyone's time. I want to thank the panelists so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom and ideas and passion around STEM education and workforce development. Angela, Carrie, Chad, and Tammy. And then I just lost somebody. Might have had to. So thank you. We will make this archived, available via archive for those who weren't able to see it. But again, thank you. Reach out to one another. Let's continue those great partnerships, and hopefully we'll see you I'm going to throw this up on the screen, sorry, really quick. So there's contact information for the hub coordinators that we mentioned. And Chris, as I said, couldn't be here. She was ill and unable to moderate, so I stepped in. So there's my contact information as well. And we will make the PowerPoint. It's very brief, but at least it has contact information. So we'll make that available as well when we archive this. So again, thank you all for coming, and let's keep up the amazing work that we do every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica, for
Thank you,
filling in.
Erica.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.